When archaeologists start digging near her grandmother's house, 11-year-old Zora discovers that some stories aren't just stories, but someone else is searching too, someone who will stop at nothing to claim a legacy that was never meant to be found. What lies beneath the surface might change everything if they can uncover the truth in time. Zora Jenkins pressed her forehead against the car window, watching pine trees blur into a green smudge as they drove deeper into nowhere. The knot in her stomach tightened with every mile marker that passed. "We're almost there, honey," Mom said from the front seat, her voice trying too hard to sound cheerful. "Grandma Imani can't wait to see you." Zora didn't answer. She just hugged her backpack closer, the only thing keeping her connected to her real life. Inside was her tablet, useless without decent Wi-Fi, and the friendship bracelet Maya had made her before summer vacation started. "It's only for 8 weeks," Dad added, catching her eye in the rearview mirror. "Your mom and I will call whenever we can from Singapore." "If Grandma's phone even works," Zora muttered. "You said her house barely gets reception." Mom turned around in her seat. "This will be good for you, Zora. Sometimes unplugging helps us reconnect with what's important." Zora rolled her eyes. What was important was that she was missing Camp Lakeview with all her friends because her parents got some amazing work opportunity across the world. And now she was being dumped at Grandma Imani's house in Waverly Cove, population practically zero. The car turned onto a gravel road that rattled Zora's teeth. Through the trees, she caught glimpses of dark blue water. The ocean, she guessed. At least there was that. The road curved, and suddenly there it was. Grandma's house. It stood on a small hill overlooking the cove, white with faded blue shutters and a wide porch wrapped around the front. Before the car even stopped, the screen door swung open and Grandma Imani appeared, waving both arms. She wore bright yellow pants and a blue top with birds printed on it. Her silver hair was twisted into dozens of small braids pulled back with a scarf. "My baby's baby is here," she called out, hurrying down the steps as fast as her 72-year-old legs would carry her. Despite herself, Zora felt a smile tug at her lips. Grandma Imani was hard not to like, even if her house was in the middle of nowhere. The next hour passed in a blur of hugs, luggage, and Mom's endless instructions about medicines and emergency contacts. Zora stood on the porch, watching her parents' car disappear down the gravel road, the knot in her stomach now a heavy stone. "Well," Grandma Imani said, standing beside her. "Looks like it's just us chickens now." She squeezed Zora's shoulder. "I made your favorite lemonade. The real kind, with lemons and everything." Zora followed her grandmother inside. The house smelled like it always did, like cinnamon and old books. Her room was upstairs, the same, one she'd stayed in during Christmas visits. Grandma had added a new purple bedspread and a small desk by the window that looked out over the water. "I thought you might want a place to draw," Grandma said. "Your mom tells me you're quite the artist now." Zora shrugged. "I guess." She hadn't brought any art supplies. What was the point? After unpacking and a dinner of fried chicken that was actually pretty amazing, Zora sat on the porch swing, half-heartedly, trying to get a signal on her phone. One bar flickered in and out. Great. The sky had turned a deep purple, and stars were beginning to appear. Way more stars than Zora could ever see at home in the city. As the darkness deepened, she noticed something else: the silence. No traffic noise, no sirens, no neighbors arguing, just crickets and the soft shush-shush of waves on the shore below. Suddenly, every light in the house went out. "Grandma?" Zora called, a note of panic in her voice. "It's all right, sweet pea," came Grandma's voice from inside. "Power goes out. sometimes during summer storms. There's one coming in off the water. Zora hadn't even noticed the wind picking up. Now she felt it cool against her skin, carrying the scent of rain. The screen door creaked, and Grandma appeared with a candle in one hand and a tray in the other. "Might as well make the best of it," she said, settling into the wicker chair across from Zora. She set the candle on a small table, its flame casting dancing shadows across the porch. "When I was your age," Grandma began, pouring something steaming from a thermos into 2 mugs, "power outages were the best times." She handed Zora a mug of hot cocoa topped with mini marshmallows. That's when the stories came out. Zora wrapped her hands around the warm mug. Despite herself, she was curious. "What kind of stories?" Grandma Imani's eyes gleamed in the candlelight. "The kind that get passed down. The kind they don't put in school books." She took a sip of her cocoa, looking out at the darkness where the ocean lay. "Did I ever tell you about Freehaven?" Zora shook her head. "Freehaven was a secret place, right here in these woods," Grandma said, her voice dropping to just above a whisper. "Back before the Civil War, escaped enslaved people found their way here, following the North Star, just like the stories say. But what most folks don't know is that when they arrived, they didn't find empty land." Thunder rumbled in the distance. Zora found herself leaning forward. "The Abenaki people lived in these parts," Grandma continued, "and instead of conflict, something remarkable happened. The 2 groups, people running from slavery and the Abenaki who'd been pushed from much of their land, they joined together. They created Freehaven." "Is this real?" Zora asked, skepticism creeping into her voice. It sounded like something from a movie. "As real as you and me," Grandma replied without hesitation. "My great-great-grandmother Harriet was among them. She escaped from a plantation in Virginia when she was 15, not much older than you." The first fat raindrops began to hit the porch roof. They built a community hidden so well that slave catchers and government agents never found it. They had secret tunnels, lookout points, and ways of warning each other about danger. Grandma's voice grew animated. "And the treasure map! People have been trying to find it for over 100 years." Treasure map? Now Zora was sure her grandmother was making things up. "Oh, yes," Grandma nodded solemnly. "The people of Freehaven collected everything valuable they had. Gold coins, jewelry, family heirlooms, and hid it all away for safekeeping. The map to its location was hidden too, in a way no one would suspect." Lightning flashed, illuminating Grandma's face for an instant. In that moment, she didn't look like a silly old woman telling tall tales. She looked like someone who knew secrets. "What happened to them?" Zora asked, despite her determination not to get pulled into what had to be just another of Grandma's made-up stories. "That," Grandma said with a mysterious smile, "is a story for another night." She pointed to Zora's mug. "Finish your cocoa before it gets cold." Zora took a sip, watching her grandmother over the rim. Maybe this summer wouldn't be so boring after all. Not that she believed in secret settlements and treasure maps, but still, Grandma Imani sure knew how to tell a good story. The wind picked up, sending the candle flame dancing wildly. And for just a second, Zora could almost see it. Freehaven, hidden somewhere among the dark trees, waiting to be found. The storm passed during the night, and Zora woke to sunlight streaming through her bedroom window. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she remembered Grandma's house. 8 weeks of no friends, no decent internet, and probably more made-up stories about secret settlements and treasure maps. She trudged downstairs to find Grandma Imani humming in the kitchen, flipping pancakes shaped like stars. "Good morning, sleepyhead," Grandma said. "Thought you might sleep till noon." Zora glanced at the clock. It was only 8:30. "There's nothing else to do," she mumbled, sliding into a chair at the kitchen table. "Nothing to do?" Grandma raised her eyebrows. "Child, I raised your mama in this house, and she never once said she was bored." She set a plate of pancakes in front of Zora. "Eat up, then I'll show you something." After breakfast, Grandma led Zora to a narrow door at the end of the upstairs hallway. "This," she said, pulling a key from her pocket, "is where all the interesting stuff is." The door swung open to reveal steep wooden stairs. "The attic?" Zora asked, disappointed. "Not just any attic," Grandma replied with a wink. "My treasure room." Zora followed her grandmother up the creaky steps. The attic was surprisingly bright, with 2 round windows letting in streams of sunlight. It was cluttered with old furniture, boxes and trunks. Dust motes danced in the light. "I haven't been up here in ages," Grandma said, moving toward a large wooden chest in the corner. "Not since before your last visit. My knees don't climb these stairs like they used to." The chest was made of dark wood with metal bands around it. It looked ancient. "This belonged to my grandmother," Grandma Imani said, running her hand over the curved lid, "and to her grandmother before that. The one I told you about last night, Harriet." Zora's interest sparked despite herself. "The one from your story about Freehaven?" Grandma nodded and pulled another key from around her neck. "Would you like to see what's inside?" Zora nodded, suddenly eager. The key turned with a loud click, and Grandma lifted the heavy lid. The smell hit Zora first, old paper and something like dried flowers. Inside the chest were stacks of yellowed papers, small cloth bags, and what looked like journals bound in faded leather. "These," Grandma said, carefully lifting out one of the journals, "are Harriet's words, written in her own hand." Zora took the journal, surprised by how real it felt. The cover was worn smooth in places, as if many hands had held it before hers. She opened it gently, revealing pages of handwriting in faded brown ink. She taught herself to read and write after she escaped, Grandma explained. It was dangerous. Knowledge for an enslaved person to have. Zora squinted at the curvy handwriting. It was hard to make out. "What does it say?" "That'll take some time to figure out," Grandma smiled. "Why don't you look at some of the other things while I fix us some lunch? You're welcome to bring anything downstairs. Just be careful with it." After Grandma left, Zora dug deeper into the chest. She found a small cloth pouch containing 3 smooth stones with strange markings carved into them. Another bag held what looked like arrowheads. There were faded photographs, too, serious-faced people in old-fashioned clothes. At the bottom of the chest, wrapped in yellowed linen, Zora found something that made her gasp. It was a piece of metal, dark with age, shaped like a circle with a star inside it and strange markings around the edges. It felt heavy in her palm. "Zora, lunch is ready," Grandma called from downstairs. Carefully placing everything back, Zora kept only the metal circle and one of the journals. She closed the chest and carried her treasures downstairs, her mind buzzing with questions. After lunch, Grandma suggested they walk down to the beach. As they followed the path through the trees, Zora asked, "Grandma, was that story true about Freehaven?" "Everyone always asks if stories are true or made up," Grandma replied, "as if they can only be one or the other." She glanced at Zora. "What do you think?" Before Zora could answer, they heard voices up ahead. Emerging from the trees they saw a group of people on the beach. Some were digging in the sand, while others took measurements with strange equipment. "Well, now," Grandma said, shading her eyes. "Looks like we have company." A woman in a wide-brimmed hat spotted them and waved. "Hello there. Are you locals?" she called out. As they got closer, Zora saw that the woman was maybe a bit younger than her mom, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and skin tanned from working outdoors. "I'm Dr. Elena Rodriguez," she said, extending her hand. "We're from the university's archaeology department." "Imani Jenkins," Grandma replied, shaking the offered hand. "And this is my granddaughter, Zora. We live up on the hill." Dr. Rodriguez smiled at Zora. "Nice to meet you both. You've picked a good day to visit. We just started excavating this week." "What are you looking for?" Zora asked, watching as people carefully sifted sand through screens. "Evidence of early settlements in this area," Dr. Rodriguez explained. "There are some intriguing local legends about a community that might have existed here in the mid-1800s. Zora's eyes widened. She glanced at her grandmother, who had gone very still. "Mom!" Two kids about Zora's age came running up the beach. They both had the same dark eyes as Dr. Rodriguez. "Miguel, Luna, don't run through the dig site," Dr. Rodriguez called. When they reached her, she put an arm around each of them. "These are my twins. They're helping me this summer." "Helping is a strong word," the girl, Luna, said with a grin. "Mom makes us sort through buckets of dirt." "You found that button yesterday," her brother Miguel reminded her. "Are you staying around here?" Luna asked Zora. "She's with me for the summer," Grandma Imani answered. "Cool," Miguel said. "We're staying in that blue cottage down the beach. You should come hang out sometime." Before Zora could respond, one of the workers called Dr. Rodriguez over. "Excuse me," she said. "Duty calls. It was nice meeting you both." She walked away, Luna whispered. "Come check out the dig site tomorrow, 10 o'clock. We found something weird this morning." On the walk back to the house, Grandma was quieter than usual. Zora, bursting with questions, finally asked, "Are they looking for Freehaven?" Grandma looked at her for a long moment. "Maybe," she said, "but finding something and recognizing what you found are two different things." That night, Zora lay, awake in bed, the metal circle from the chest on her nightstand. In the moonlight, she could just make out its strange markings. She thought about what Grandma had said, about the archaeologists, about the twins and their invitation. For the first time since arriving, Zora found herself looking forward to tomorrow. Morning couldn't come fast enough. Zora was up and dressed by 8, her stomach fluttering with excitement. She tucked the metal circle into her pocket, wanting to show it to the twins. Grandma Imani looked surprised to see her at the breakfast table. "So early. You're up with the birds today," she said, sliding a bowl of oatmeal in front of Zora. "Any special plans?" "Just thought I'd explore the beach," Zora answered, trying to sound casual. She wasn't sure why, but she didn't want to mention the dig site or the twins' invitation. At 9:30, Zora headed down the path to the beach. The day was clear and bright, the ocean a deep blue against the horizon. When she reached the dig site, she saw it was already busy with activity. People in khaki clothes knelt in shallow pits, carefully brushing at the earth with small tools. "Zora, over here!" Luna waved from near a large white tent. She and Miguel were sitting at a folding table covered with plastic bags containing dirt and small objects. "You came," Miguel said, grinning. "We weren't sure you would." "What are you guys doing?" Zora asked, watching as Luna used a small brush to clean something that looked like a rusty nail. "Cleaning artifacts," Luna explained. Boring but important, Mom says. Speaking of Mom, Miguel added in a lower voice, she's in the tent with Dr. Blackwood. He arrived this morning. Who's Dr. Blackwood? Zora asked. Some big shot from the Waverly Historical Society. Luna rolled her eyes. He's funding part of the dig. Just then, Dr. Rodriguez emerged from the tent with a tall man in an expensive-looking safari shirt. He had gray-streaked hair and wire-rimmed glasses that flashed in the sun. Ah, you must be from town, the man said, noticing Zora. Victor Blackwood. He held out his hand, which Zora shook awkwardly. Are you interested in local history, young lady? Before Zora could answer, Dr. Rodriguez cut in. This is Zora Jenkins. Her grandmother lives up on the hill. Imani Jenkins. Something flickered in Blackwood's eyes. Jenkins? How interesting. I'd love to speak with your grandmother sometime. Local perspectives are so valuable. There was something about his smile that made Zora uncomfortable. She's pretty busy, she said quickly. Well, perhaps another time, he replied, turning back to Dr. Rodriguez. Let's continue our discussion about the southern section. As they walked away, Luna whispered, he gives me the creeps. Yeah, Miguel agreed. But come on, we want to show you what we found. He led them to a table near the edge of the tent where various objects were laid out on a white cloth. Ta-da! Luna said, pointing to a small, dirt-encrusted object. Look familiar? Zora gasped. It was a metal circle, almost identical to the one in her pocket, though this one was broken on one side. Where did you find this? She asked, her heart pounding. Yesterday, in Pit 3, Miguel said. Mom says it's probably just an old button or medallion, but… Zora pulled out her metal circle. Like this one? The twins' eyes widened. Where did you get that? Luna breathed. My grandmother has a chest full of old stuff in her attic, Zora explained. This was in it. Miguel glanced around to make sure no one was watching, then took Zora's circle and placed it next to the broken one. They're the same. We have to. Tell Mom, Luna said, already turning to go find Dr. Rodriguez. Wait, Zora grabbed her arm. Can we just look into it a bit more first? Luna hesitated. Why? Zora wasn't sure herself. I just want to ask my grandmother about it first. She told me a story about… There you three are! Dr. Rodriguez appeared behind them. What are you up to? The children jumped guiltily. Miguel stepped in front of the table, blocking the view of the two metal circles. Just showing Zora around, he said. Dr. Rodriguez raised an eyebrow but didn't push further. Luna, Miguel, I need your help sorting the new samples. Zora, you're welcome to watch, but please don't touch anything without permission. As Dr. Rodriguez walked away, Zora quickly pocketed her metal circle. I should go, she whispered, but I'll come back tomorrow, and I'll bring my grandmother. She knows about these. She tapped her pocket. On her way home, Zora took a detour through town, her mind racing with questions. The twins had found a metal circle just like the one from Grandma's chest. That couldn't be a coincidence, could it? Lost in thought, she didn't notice the man until she nearly bumped into him. Ah, Zora, isn't it? Victor Blackwood smiled down at her. What a pleasant surprise. Zora stepped back, suddenly wary. I was just heading home. Allow me to walk with you, he said, falling into step beside her. I'm quite interested in your grandmother's stories. I understand she knows quite a bit about local history? Not. Really? Zora lied. Just regular grandma stuff. Oh? I was told she speaks of a settlement called Freehaven. His casual tone didn't match the intensity in his eyes. Fascinating folklore. A chill ran down Zora's spine. How did he know about that? I've never heard of it, she said, stopping at the corner. This is my turn. Bye. She hurried down the side street, not looking back until she was sure he wasn't following. That evening, Zora brought Grandma Imani a cup of tea and worked up her courage. Grandma, those archaeologists on the beach, I think they might be looking for Freehaven. Grandma's hands stilled. What makes you say that? Zora pulled out the metal circle. They found one of these, broken but the same. Grandma took the circle, her fingers tracing the markings. Did you tell them about your find? No, but I want to. I was thinking you could come with me tomorrow. Tell them about Freehaven. The hope in Grandma's eyes made Zora's heart ache. Perhaps I should, she said softly, though people don't usually put much stock in an old woman's tales. The next morning, they walked together to the dig site. Dr. Rodriguez greeted them warmly, but her smile faded when Grandma asked about Freehaven. Oh, local legends, she said kindly. Yes, we've heard various stories. Very colorful. They're not just stories, Grandma insisted, showing her the metal circle. This is a marker from Freehaven. My great-great-grandmother passed it down. Dr. Rodriguez examined it with professional interest. An interesting artifact, certainly. May I? She took it to her equipment tent, where she studied it under a magnifying glass before handing it back. Thank you for showing me this, Mrs. Jenkins. We'll certainly keep an eye out for similar items. As they left, Zora heard Dr. Rodriguez say to her assistant, "Charming old lady, but you know how these local tales grow with each telling." "That's it?" Zora asked as they walked home. "She doesn't believe you?" Grandma's smile was sad. "Scientists need proof, Zora. Stories aren't enough." That night, unable to sleep, Zora crept downstairs for a glass of water. She found Grandma in the living room, old photographs spread around her, tears streaming down her face. "Nobody believes," Imani whispered, not seeing Zora in the doorway. "But the truth is there, waiting to be found." Zora slipped back upstairs, a new determination hardening in her chest. She'd find proof, for her grandmother and for Freehaven. The next morning, Zora woke early and retrieved one of Harriet's journals from the wooden chest. She'd need help to understand the old-fashioned handwriting, but she was determined to try. Grandma found her at the kitchen table, squinting at the faded pages. "What are you up to, Sweet Pea?" she asked, putting on the kettle for tea. "I want to read great-great-great-grandma Harriet's journal," Zora said. "But it's hard to understand." Grandma smiled, a warm glow replacing yesterday's sadness. "Well, let's look at it together." They spent the morning hunched over the journal, Grandma helping Zora decipher the looping script. Many words were spelled differently than Zora was used to, and some sentences made little sense at first. "Listen to this," Zora said, pointing to a passage. "We finished the third tunnel today. It leads from the big cave to the marked tree. Now we have escape in 3 directions if trouble comes." "Tunnels," Grandma nodded. "They built them for safety." "And here," Zora turned the page, "put our valuables in the wall cabinet of the meeting cave. Marked it with the circle of freedom, so all will know, but outsiders will not." "The circle of freedom," Grandma repeated, touching the metal circle that sat on the table between them. "That's what this is." Zora's heart beat faster. "Grandma, these aren't just stories. Harriet really did live in a secret settlement." "I've been telling you that," Grandma said with a chuckle. Zora read another entry. "The great oak with the mark stands guardian at the north path. From there, follow the evening star until the split rock appears." "It's directions," Zora realized. But what's the marked tree? And what's the evening star? Grandma shook her head. I don't know, child. These words have been waiting a long time for someone to understand them. That afternoon, Zora met the twins at their cottage. They sat on the back porch, heads bent over the journal as Zora explained what she'd found. This is so cool, Luna whispered, carefully turning a brittle page. It's like a real treasure map, but we need to figure out what some of these things are, Miguel said practically. The marked tree, the evening star, the split rock. And we need to find them before Dr. Blackwood does, Zora added, telling them about her strange encounter. In town. He does ask a lot of questions, Luna agreed. Mom says he's especially interested in any mention of hidden valuables. You think he's after the treasure? Miguel asked. I don't know, Zora said, but I don't trust him. They decided to explore the woods behind Grandma's house, following the journal's clues. According to Harriet, the settlement had been about a mile inland from the shore. What exactly are we looking for? Luna asked, as they trekked along a faint path. A big old oak tree with some kind of mark on it, Zora replied. But that was over 100 years ago. It might not even be here anymore. Trees can live for hundreds of years, Miguel said. If it was already big then, it might still be standing. They searched for hours, examining every large oak they found, but none had any unusual markings. Hot, tired, and discouraged, they headed back to the path. Wait, Miguel said suddenly, pointing to a massive tree they'd somehow missed. What about that one? The oak was enormous, its trunk wider than all three of them could reach around. Most of its bark was gnarled and twisted with age. I don't see any marks, Luna said, walking around it. Me neither, Zora sighed. Maybe we're looking in the wrong place. As they turned to leave, the setting sun broke through the trees, illuminating the trunk. And there it was, a faint circular carving, almost worn away by time, with what looked like a star in the center. The Circle of Freedom, Zora gasped, pulling out her metal emblem. It matched the carving perfectly. We found it, Luna whispered, her voice filled with awe. The marked tree. Excited, they checked the journal again. Follow the evening star until the split rock appears, Miguel read. The evening star is Venus, Luna said. It appears in the west, right after sunset. They looked west from the tree, but saw only more forest. We need to come back at sunset, Zora decided. That's when we'll be able to see which direction to go. As they headed back, a twig snapped in the woods behind them. Miguel turned quickly. Did you hear that? Probably just a squirrel, Luna said, but she looked nervous. The sound came again. Definitely footsteps. Who's there? Zora called, trying to sound braver than she felt. Victor Blackwood stepped from behind a tree, looking surprised to see them. Ah, children. What a coincidence. We're just exploring, Luna said quickly. How interesting. Blackwood's smile didn't reach his eyes. I enjoy walking in the woods myself. The history in these old trees. He touched the bark of the marked oak. Fascinating, isn't it? We have to get home, Miguel said, pulling his sister's arm. Our mom's expecting us. Of course, Blackwood nodded. Don't let me keep you. But as they hurried away, Zora felt his eyes following them. That was no coincidence, she whispered when they were out of earshot. He was following us. But why? Luna asked. Zora glanced back toward the oak tree. I think he knows more about Freehaven than he's letting on. That night, Zora added to her notebook of clues. The marked tree, the Circle of Freedom, the tunnels, the evening star, and the split rock. Pieces of a puzzle, slowly coming together. Tomorrow at sunset, they would return to the oak and follow the evening star, one step closer to proving Grandma's stories true. Zora woke with a start, her mind already racing with plans for the evening. She needed to be careful. Grandma Imani was watching her more closely since their discussion about the journal, and she didn't want to worry her. But she also needed to meet the twins at the marked tree by sunset. After breakfast, Zora headed to the attic again. There had to be more clues in the wooden chest. This time, she pulled out everything, laying the items in neat rows on the dusty floor. Journals, photographs, small pouches of artifacts, and a folded quilt. Zora hadn't paid much attention to it before. It looked old and faded, made of small squares of different fabrics sewn together in a pattern. She unfolded it carefully, spreading it out on the floor. The design was beautiful. Stars and squares in blues, reds, and browns. But as she studied it, something seemed odd. Some of the stitches formed shapes that didn't quite match the pattern. In one corner, tiny stitches created what looked like a tree. In another, she could make out something like a mountain. "Find anything interesting?" Grandma's voice startled her. "This quilt," Zora said, pointing to the shapes she'd noticed. "Did people really sew maps into quilts?" Grandma knelt beside her with a small grunt, her eyes widening as she looked where Zora pointed. "My mother used to tell me that women sewed their secrets into quilts," she said softly. "Messages and maps that only those who knew what to look for would understand." She traced a finger along a zigzag pattern of stitches. "This could be a river." "Or a path," Zora suggested, excitement building. "Grandma, what if this is a map of Freehaven?" Grandma looked thoughtful. "I never thought. My mother gave me this quilt when I was about your age. Said it was important, but I just thought she meant it was a family heirloom." Together, they studied the quilt more closely. The more they looked, the more they saw. Tiny stitched symbols hidden in the pattern. A circle with a star. A split boulder. What could be a cave opening? "It's all here," Zora whispered. "Everything from Harriet's journal." Just then, someone knocked at the front door. Grandma went to answer it, leaving Zora with the quilt. A moment later, she called up, "Zora, Dr. Rodriguez is here." Zora hurried downstairs to find the archaeologist in the living room. "Hello, Zora," Dr. Rodriguez smiled. "Miguel and Luna told me about the journal you found. I was hoping I might take a look at it." Zora glanced at her grandmother, who nodded, encouragingly. "I'll get it," she said, running back upstairs. When she returned with the journal, Dr. Rodriguez was examining the metal circle, which Grandma had apparently shown her. "Fascinating," the archaeologist murmured, turning it over in her hands. "The craftsmanship is remarkable for the time period." She took the journal from Zora and carefully turned the pages, her expression growing more interested with each entry. She read, "Mrs. Jenkins, this is truly remarkable. These details correspond with some of our findings at the dig site." "So you believe me now?" Grandma asked, a hint of challenge in her voice. Dr. Rodriguez looked up. "I always believed you had valuable information," she said diplomatically. "But as scientists, we need physical evidence to support oral histories." "And do you have that evidence now?" Grandma pressed. "We're finding some compelling artifacts," Dr. Rodriguez admitted. "But we're still piecing everything together." She handed the journal back to Zora. "May I bring some equipment tomorrow to take a closer look at these items?" "Non-invasive scanning that won't damage anything," she added, quickly. After Dr. Rodriguez left, Zora told Grandma about her plan to meet the twins at the marked tree at sunset. "I'm coming with you," Grandma said firmly. "These old bones still know these woods better than most." They met Miguel and Luna at the oak tree just as the sun was beginning to set. Grandma brought the quilt in a canvas bag, explaining their discovery as they waited for the evening star to appear. "So the quilt might be the treasure map?" Luna asked, her eyes wide. "It seems like it." Zora nodded. "But we need to figure out exactly what the symbols mean." As the sun dipped below the horizon, the sky darkened to a deep blue. And there it was, the evening star, bright in the western sky. "That's our direction," Miguel said, pointing west from the marked tree. They set off, Grandma moving more nimbly through the woods than Zora had expected. After about 10 minutes of walking, they came to a small clearing with a large rock formation in the center. The boulder had been split down the middle, creating a narrow passage. "The split rock!" Luna exclaimed. Zora pulled out the journal. Harriet wrote, "At the split rock, turn toward the bear and count 50 paces to the hidden door." "The bear?" Miguel looked confused. "What bear?" Grandma pointed to the stars just beginning to appear overhead. "The Great Bear, Ursa Major. The Big Dipper is part of it." They oriented themselves toward the constellation, and Miguel volunteered to count the paces. 1, 2, 3. He counted aloud as he walked carefully through the underbrush. Others followed close behind. 48, 49, 50. Miguel stopped in front of what looked like a small hill covered in moss and ferns. "There's nothing here," Luna said, disappointed, but Grandma was examining the hill closely. "Look, there," she said, pointing to a spot where the moss seemed different. "The ground's been disturbed." Zora brushed away some of the moss to reveal what looked like old, rotted wood. "It's a door," she gasped, "or what's left of one." Before they could investigate further, they heard a twig snap behind them. All four froze. "Well, well," came a familiar voice. "What an interesting evening stroll." Victor Blackwood stepped into view, a small flashlight in one hand. "Mrs. Jenkins, I presume? I've been hoping to meet you." "Dr. Blackwood," Grandma nodded coolly. "You seem to have a habit of turning up unexpectedly." "Merely a coincidence," he smiled, but no one believed him. "I see you've brought the quilt." His eyes fixed on the canvas bag Grandma carried. "A beautiful example of African-American quilting traditions, I'm sure." "How did you know what was in the bag?" Zora asked suspiciously. Blackwood's smile faltered momentarily. "An educated guess. I've been researching Freehaven for years, you see. I know all about the coded quilts, the metal markers, even the hidden tunnels. Then you know these children have made more progress in 3 days than you have in years," Grandma said sharply. Blackwood's expression hardened. "I think it's time you shared what you know, Mrs. Jenkins. The Waverly Historical Society would be very interested in examining that quilt." "It's a family heirloom." Grandma clutched the bag tighter. "Not for sale or study." "We'll see," Blackwood said softly. "These things have a way of working themselves out." With that cryptic remark, he turned and disappeared into the darkening woods. That night, back at the house, Zora couldn't sleep. Something about Blackwood's interest in the quilt bothered her deeply. She crept downstairs for a glass of water and was surprised to find Grandma still awake, studying the quilt spread out on the dining table. "He knows more than he's saying," Grandma murmured without looking up. "And I don't trust him one bit." "Me neither," Zora agreed. "But we found the hidden door, Grandma. That means Freehaven was real, just like you said." Grandma nodded, her fingers tracing the stitched patterns. "Real as you and me, child. But finding it is just the beginning." Neither of them heard the eye-high, soft crunch of footsteps outside, or noticed the shadow that passed briefly across the window. The next morning, Zora woke to the sound of Grandma calling her name, panic clear in her voice. She rushed downstairs to find her grandmother standing in the middle of the attic doorway, her face pale. "Someone's been here," Grandma whispered, pointing up the stairs. The attic was a disaster. Boxes had been overturned, papers scattered across the floor. The wooden chest stood open, its contents strewn about. Worst of all, it was empty. "The journals!" Zora gasped. "The artifacts! They're gone!" Grandma sank onto the top step, her hands trembling. "Everything! They took everything!" The quilt, Zora suddenly remembered. "Where is it?" "Still downstairs," Grandma said. "I fell asleep at the table looking at it." They hurried back down to find the quilt still spread across the dining table, untouched. Whoever had broken in either hadn't found it, or hadn't recognized its importance. "We need to call the police," Zora said, reaching for Grandma's phone. 2 hours later, a police officer stood in their living room, taking notes as Grandma listed what had been stolen. His expression made it clear he didn't expect to recover. "The items. Not much market for old family papers," he said, closing his notebook. "Probably just kids looking for valuables. We'll keep an eye out, but—" He shrugged, leaving the sentence unfinished. After he left, Zora called the twins and told them what had happened. "That's awful," Luna said. "Do you think it was Blackwood?" "Who else?" Miguel's voice came through the speaker. "He was acting weird last night, and he knows about the journals." "We should tell Mom," Luna suggested. "She could help." Zora agreed, and they arranged to meet at the dig site that afternoon. When they arrived, Dr. Rodriguez was examining a newly uncovered section of stone foundation. "Children," she greeted them, brushing dirt from her hands. "And Mrs. Jenkins, what brings you here today?" Zora explained about the break-in and the stolen items. Dr. Rodriguez listened with a concerned expression, but when Zora mentioned their suspicions about Blackwood, her demeanor changed. "Victor Blackwood is a respected historian and a major supporter of our work," she said firmly. "I understand you're upset, but accusing him of burglary is quite serious." "But he knew about the quilt," Zora insisted. "And he keeps showing up wherever we go." "Coincidences," Dr. Rodriguez dismissed. "And of course he knows about quilting traditions. It's his field of study." "What about the hidden door we found?" Miguel added. "He followed us there." Dr. Rodriguez sighed. "Miguel, we've talked about your imagination running wild. There are no hidden doors or secret tunnels. We've found structural remains of what appears to be a small settlement, yes, but nothing like the elaborate compound Mrs. Jenkins describes." "But what about the metal circle?" Luna asked. "We found one just like Mrs. Jenkins has." "A common design for the period," her mother replied. "Look, I appreciate your enthusiasm for local history, but we need to be scientific about this." Zora couldn't believe what she was hearing. Even with all their discoveries, Dr. Rodriguez still didn't believe them. She glanced at Grandma, who sat silent, her face a mask of disappointment. "Maybe we can show you the door," Zora suggested desperately. "Tonight, when it's cooler." Dr. Rodriguez checked her watch. "I have a video call with the university board at 6, perhaps tomorrow." As they walked away from the dig site, Luna whispered, "I'm sorry about Mom. She gets like this sometimes. All science, no imagination." "It's not about imagination," Zora said, frustration building inside her. "It's about believing what's right in front of her." They decided to meet at the hidden door later that evening, with or without Dr. Rodriguez. Zora and Grandma would bring the quilt to see if it offered more clues about what lay beyond the rotted wood. Back at home, Zora helped Grandma fold the EUO quilt carefully. "Why doesn't Dr. Rodriguez believe us?" she asked, smoothing a wrinkle from the fabric. "We have proof." "People often see what they expect to see," Grandma replied. "And historians, archaeologists, they're trained to be skeptical, but the truth has a way of coming out." As sunset approached, Zora packed a flashlight, the quilt, and some snacks into her backpack. Just as they were about to leave, there was a knock at the door. To their surprise, Dr. Rodriguez stood on the porch. "I had a cancellation," she said, looking slightly uncomfortable. "The children were very insistent that I see this door you've found." Behind her, Miguel and Luna gave Zora a thumbs up. The four of them led Dr. Rodriguez through the woods, following the now familiar path past the marked tree to the split rock, and then 50 paces toward the Big Dipper. When they reached the moss-covered mound, Zora and Miguel cleared away more of the vegetation, revealing the remains of what was clearly a wooden door set into the hillside. Dr. Rodriguez knelt beside it, her professional skepticism giving way to genuine interest. "This is certainly man-made," she admitted, examining the rotted timbers. "And quite old." She pulled a small tool from her pocket and carefully scraped at one of the boards. "Oak, I think, with iron fittings, heavily corroded." She looked up at Grandma. "You may have been right, Mrs. Jenkins." Grandma's smile was triumphant. "Shall we see where it leads?" Using a small pry bar from her equipment belt, Dr. Rodriguez carefully worked on the decayed wood until a section gave way. Behind it was darkness. "I should call the team," she said, reaching for her phone. "This needs to be properly documented." "But we can take a quick look, right?" Luna pleaded. "Just a peek?" Dr. Rodriguez hesitated, then nodded. "Just a few steps inside. Stay together, and don't touch anything." She switched on a powerful flashlight and directed the beam through the opening. What they saw made them all gasp. A narrow tunnel stretched before them, its walls supported by old timber beams. The passage sloped gently downward, disappearing into darkness. "It's real," Dr. Rodriguez whispered, awe replacing doubt in her voice. "The tunnel system from your grandmother's stories. It's actually real." Just then, Zora's phone buzzed with a text message. It was from an unknown number. "Did you find the door? What's inside? Tell me everything." VB Zora showed the message to the others. "VB, Victor Blackwood," she said. "He's tracking us somehow." Dr. Rodriguez's expression hardened. "That's not possible. Victor wouldn't—" She paused, doubt crossing her face for the first time. "Let me see that." She took Zora's phone, staring at the message. "This is highly inappropriate. I'll speak with him tomorrow." As they emerged from the tunnel, planning to return with proper equipment the next day, none of them noticed the small tracking device that had been slipped into the canvas bag holding the quilt. Back at Grandma's house, Zora couldn't contain her excitement. "We did it! We proved Freehaven was real, and now Dr. Rodriguez believes us too." Grandma smiled, but her eyes remained troubled. "Yes, we found the tunnel. But remember, child, we still don't know who took our family treasures." She gazed out the window into the darkness. "And I have a feeling we haven't seen the last of Victor Blackwood." The next morning, the twins arrived early, bubbling with excitement. Their mother had called in the entire archaeological team to document the tunnel, and they wanted Zora and Grandma to be there for the official exploration. "Mom stayed up all night researching tunnel systems built by freedom seekers," Luna said, practically bouncing as they walked toward the site. "She says it could be one of the most significant historical finds in the region." She's really sorry she didn't believe you, Miguel added, looking at Grandma. She said to tell you that sometimes scientists get so focused on evidence they forget to listen. When they reached the hidden door, the scene had transformed. Tents had been set up, equipment was scattered about, and a team of people in matching khaki shirts were carefully removing more of the moss and dirt from around the entrance. Dr. Rodriguez spotted them and hurried over. "Mrs. Jenkins, Zora, I'm so glad you're here." Her face was flushed with excitement. "We've already done some preliminary scanning, and the tunnel extends at least 200 feet into the hillside. There are what appear to be side chambers as well. Just like in Harriet's journal," Zora said, unable to keep the note of "I told you so" from her voice. Dr. Rodriguez had the grace to look embarrassed. "Yes, well, I owe you both an apology. I should have taken your family history more seriously from the beginning." Grandma's face softened. "What matters is that you're listening now." "What about Dr. Blackwood?" Zora asked, glancing around. "Is he here?" Dr. Rodriguez's expression darkened. "No. I tried calling him this morning to discuss that text message, but he didn't answer. I've asked the university to look into his credentials more thoroughly. Something doesn't add up. By midday, the team had secured the entrance with support beams and laid down temporary flooring to prevent damage to any artifacts that might be in the tunnel. Dr. Rodriguez explained that they would proceed carefully, documenting everything in place before moving anything. "We'd like you to come with us, Mrs. Jenkins," she said. "Your family knowledge could be invaluable." Grandma nodded, her eyes shining. "I've been waiting my whole life for this moment." They were fitted with hard hats and led to the entrance. Dr. Rodriguez went first, followed by Grandma, then the 3 children, and finally 2 more team members. Their headlamps cut through the darkness, revealing a surprisingly well-preserved passage. "The construction is remarkable," Dr. Rodriguez commented, examining the supporting beams. "These joints are expertly crafted." As they moved deeper, the tunnel widened. Shelves had been carved into the walls, though whatever they had held was long gone. Occasionally, they passed smaller side passages that Dr. Rodriguez said would be explored later. After walking for about 5 minutes, the tunnel opened into a large cavern. Their headlamps couldn't reach the far walls, so Dr. Rodriguez set up portable lights. As the space brightened, they all stood in stunned silence. Their cavern was roughly circular, about 30 feet across, with a high, domed ceiling. Around the edges were what appeared to be the remains of furniture, tables, benches, and shelves, all crafted from wood that had somehow survived the decades. In one corner stood a crumbling stone hearth. "It's a meeting room," Grandma whispered. "Just like in the stories." Zora spotted something on the far wall and pointed. "Look!" There, carved into the rock, was the same symbol, the circle of freedom, larger than the one on the tree but unmistakable. Dr. Rodriguez approached it reverently. "This confirms it. This place was Free Haven." As the team spread out to document the cavern, Zora, Miguel, and Luna explored on their own, staying within sight of the adults. The floor was earthen, packed hard by years of use, with stones laid in patterns that might once have been paths between different areas. "Hey, look at this!" Miguel called, crouching near what looked like a fallen beam. He pointed his headlamp at something half buried in the dirt. Zora knelt beside him. It was a small metal box, about the size of a hardcover book, its surface green with age. "Should we tell Dr. Rodriguez?" Luna whispered. "In a minute," Zora said, carefully brushing dirt from the box. There was something etched on the lid, a name. "Harriet," she read aloud, her heart racing. "It's my great-great-great-grandmother's." With trembling fingers, she tried to open it, but the lid was stuck. Miguel offered his pocket knife, and together they gently worked the blade around the seam until they heard a soft click. Inside, they found a stack of papers, letters by the look of them, and a small leather pouch. Zora opened one of the letters. The handwriting was similar to the journal's, but neater, as if written with greater care. "To my descendants," she read, "if you have found this box, then you have discovered the truth of Free Haven." Before she could read more, they heard footsteps, too heavy to be part of the archaeological team. They looked up to see a figure silhouetted against the portable lights. "What a remarkable discovery," said Victor Blackwood, stepping into view. He held something in his hand, a metal detector, its display glowing in the dim light. "And it seems you found something interesting as well." "How did you get in here?" Luna demanded, standing up quickly. "There's more than one entrance to these tunnels," Blackwood replied with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I've been mapping them for weeks." "You stole our family treasures," Zora accused, clutching the metal box to her chest. Blackwood's smile disappeared. "I've been searching for Free Haven for 20 years, young lady. The valuables hidden here belong to historical record, not to one family. They belong to the descendants." Grandma's voice rang out as she approached from behind the children. "And that would be us." Dr. Rodriguez and her team appeared as well, surrounding Blackwood. "What are you doing here, Victor? This is a secured archaeological site." "Finding what I came for," he answered, his gaze fixed on the metal box in Zora's arms. "The letters that confirmed the location of the community's treasure." "Is that all you care about?" Zora asked in disbelief. "The gold? What about the history? The stories of the people who lived here?" "The gold finances my research," Blackwood snapped. "Now, hand over the box like a good girl." "No," Zora said, backing away. Blackwood reached into his pocket and pulled out a small taser. "I didn't want to do this the hard way." The device crackled with electricity. Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward. "Victor, have you lost your mind? There are children here." Before anyone could move, a low rumble filled the cavern. Dust sifted down from the ceiling. "What was that?" Luna whispered. The rumble came again, louder this time. A crack appeared in one of the support beams near the entrance. "The tunnels must be unstable," Dr. Rodriguez said urgently. "Everyone out now!" As they turned to flee, part of the ceiling collapsed, sending a shower of dirt and stones blocking the path to the main entrance. Miguel, who had been nearest to the fall, was caught in the edge of it, his leg trapped under the debris. "Miguel!" Luna screamed, rushing to her brother. In the chaos, Blackwood made his move, lunging toward Zora for the metal box. But as he did, another section of ceiling gave way directly above him. He jumped back just in time, dropping the taser as more rubble cut off his path to the children. "This way!" he shouted, turning toward a side tunnel. "There's another exit." As more debris fell, Dr. Rodriguez and her team worked frantically to free Miguel. "Go!" she yelled to Blackwood. "Get help!" Blackwood hesitated, looking at the metal box still clutched in Zora's arms, then at the increasingly unstable ceiling. With a curse, he disappeared into the side tunnel. "Miguel's leg is stuck," Luna cried, tears streaming down her face. "We can't move the rocks." "There's another way out," Zora said suddenly, remembering the quilt. The map showed multiple tunnels. But which way? The cavern had 3 visible passages: the collapsed main entrance, the side tunnel Blackwood had taken, and a third, smaller, opening on the opposite wall. As more dust and small stones rained down around them, they had to make a choice, and fast. "The third tunnel," Grandma Imani said suddenly, pointing to the smaller opening. In Harriet's journal, she wrote about 3 escape routes. That one should lead to the creek bed. Dr. Rodriguez was working frantically with her team members to shift the rocks pinning Miguel's leg. "Luna, take Mrs. Jenkins and Zora and go for help," she ordered. "We'll stay with Miguel." "I'm not leaving my brother," Luna protested. "I'll go," Zora volunteered. "Grandma, show me which way." But before she could move, there was a loud crack from above. Everyone looked up in horror as a larger section of ceiling began to give way. "Everyone move!" Dr. Rodriguez shouted, throwing herself over Miguel as the rest of the team scrambled toward the 3rd tunnel. In those chaotic seconds, Zora made a split-second decision. She shoved Harriet's metal box into her backpack and grabbed Luna's arm, pulling her toward the tunnel as more debris crashed down behind them. "Miguel!" Luna screamed, trying to break free. "Dr. Rodriguez has him," Zora assured her, though she wasn't certain. The last she'd seen, the archaeologist was shielding Miguel with her own body as rocks fell around them. Grandma Imani led the way, moving with surprising speed through the narrow passage. 2 of Dr. Rodriguez's team members followed, coughing from the dust. The tunnel sloped upward, growing tighter in places until they had to crouch to continue. "It should open up ahead," Grandma said between breaths, "if it follows the map on the quilt." After what seemed like forever, but was probably only a few minutes, they saw a glimmer of light ahead. The tunnel ended at a tangle of roots and earth that, when pushed aside, opened onto the bank of a small creek. As they emerged into the moonlight, Luna immediately turned back. "I have to help Miguel." "Wait," one of the team members said, grabbing her arm. "It's too dangerous. We need equipment. Help." "There's no time," Luna cried, tears streaking her dust-covered face. "There's another entrance," Grandma Imani said. "The one by the oak tree. It might be safer than going back the way we came." They raced through the woods, following Grandma's directions until they reached the original entrance. To their dismay, it too had partially collapsed, soil and rocks, blocking much of the opening. "We can still get through," Luna insisted, already trying to squeeze past the fallen debris. "It's not safe," a team member warned. "The whole system could be unstable." A sound from within the tunnel made them all freeze. Someone was coming. They backed away, unsure if it was friend or foe. Victor Blackwood emerged, dusty and limping, his expensive safari shirt torn at the shoulder. When he saw them, his face contorted with anger. "You!" he snarled at Zora. "Give me that box!" "Where's my brother?" Luna demanded, stepping forward. "Where's my mom?" Blackwood ignored her, his eyes fixed on Zora's backpack. "Don't be foolish. Girl, that box contains historical artifacts that belong in a museum, or more specifically, in my research collection." "They don't belong to you," Zora said, backing away. "They're my family's history." "Where are Dr. Rodriguez and Miguel?" one of the team members asked, moving protectively in front of the children. Blackwood's expression shifted to something resembling concern. "Still inside, I'm afraid. The collapse was worse than I expected. I tried to help, but..." He gestured vaguely at his injured leg. Zora didn't believe him for a second. "You left them behind to save yourself." "I went for help," Blackwood countered smoothly. "And now that I've found you, we can organize a proper rescue. Or you can take the box and disappear," Grandma said, her voice hard as stone. Blackwood's fake concern vanished. "I've spent my career searching for Freehaven. Those documents, and the treasure they lead to, are my discovery. They were never yours to find," Grandma replied. Before Blackwood could respond, they heard voices calling from the direction of the creek. Moments later, Dr. Rodriguez appeared, supporting Miguel, whose face was pale with pain. Behind them came the rest of the archaeological team. "Mom!" Luna rushed to embrace her mother and brother. Relief flooded through Zora at the sight of them safe, though Miguel's leg was clearly injured, his pants torn and bloody below the knee. "Victor," Dr. Rodriguez said coldly when she spotted Blackwood, "I see you made it out safely. How convenient." "Elena, thank goodness." Blackwood's concerned expression returned instantly. "I was just organizing a rescue effort." "Save it," she snapped. "I saw you grab the treasure chest from the wall before you ran. Where is it?" Everyone's eyes went to Blackwood's hands, which were empty. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said stiffly. "I was merely trying to escape with my life, as we all were." "We found where it was hidden," Dr. Rodriguez continued. "A small cavity in the wall, behind the Circle of Freedom carving. Empty now, of course. The community's valuables," Grandma whispered. Blackwood's composure cracked. "If I did find something, it would be the rightful property of the Historical Society, for research and preservation." "You mean for your own profit?" Dr. Rodriguez accused. As they argued, Zora noticed something in the underbrush where Blackwood had emerged from the tunnel. A small, dirt-covered box, similar in size to Harriet's, but made of wood, reinforced with metal bands. He must have dropped it in his hurry. She caught Luna's eye and glanced meaningfully toward the box. Luna followed her gaze and nodded slightly. "We need to get Miguel to a hospital," Luna said loudly, creating a distraction as Zora casually moved toward the hidden box. "Yes, of course," Dr. Rodriguez agreed, turning her attention to her injured son. "Johnson, call for an ambulance to meet us at the access road." As everyone focused on Miguel, Zora quietly picked up the treasure box and slipped it into her backpack, alongside Harriet's metal case. The weight was surprising. Whatever was inside was heavy. Blackwood's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "What are you doing over there, girl?" "Just getting my water bottle," Zora lied, patting her backpack. "We should all get out of here. It's not safe." As the group began to move toward the access road, Blackwood fell into step beside Zora, his voice low and threatening. "I know what you found. This isn't over." Zora met his eyes defiantly. "No, it's not. But you're not going to win." At the access road, an ambulance waited to take Miguel to the hospital. His leg wasn't broken, the paramedic said, but he had a deep gash that needed stitches. Luna climbed in beside her brother, while Dr. Rodriguez spoke quietly with her team, giving instructions for securing the site overnight. "I'll meet you at the hospital," she told Luna, then turned to Zora and Grandma Imani. "Can I give you a ride back to your house? I think we all need some rest after today." "That would be lovely," Grandma said, her voice tired but satisfied. "It's been quite an adventure." As they walked toward Dr. Rodriguez's car, Zora noticed Blackwood watching them from the edge of the woods. His face was half hidden in shadow, but she could feel the intensity of his gaze. A shiver ran down her spine. "Dr. Rodriguez," she said quietly, "Blackwood is still here." The archaeologist glanced over her shoulder. "Let him watch. I've already called the university board and the police. His credentials as a historian are completely fabricated, and they'll want to question him about the break-in at your house and his actions in the tunnel." Once they were safely in the car, Zora finally dared to mention what she'd found. "I have the treasure chest," she admitted. "Blackwood dropped it when he came out of the tunnel." Dr. Rodriguez's eyes widened in the rearview mirror. "You picked it up?" "I know I shouldn't have touched it," Zora said quickly, "but I couldn't let him get it back." "Under the circumstances, I think you made the right choice," Dr. Rodriguez said. "But we should turn it over to the authorities. Whatever's inside belongs to the historical record. It belongs to the descendants of Freehaven, Grandma corrected, firmly. My family among them. Dr. Rodriguez nodded slowly. You're right. I'm still thinking like an archaeologist instead of a person. She smiled at Grandma in the mirror. Let's compromise. We'll document what's inside properly, and then discuss the best way to preserve both the physical objects and their significance to your family. Back at the house, they gathered around the kitchen table. Zora carefully removed both boxes from her backpack. Harriet's metal box was smaller, personal-sized. The treasure chest was about twice as large, made of dark wood with iron reinforcements, now green with age. Let's start with Harriet's box, Grandma suggested. She meant for her descendants to find it. Inside were several letters, yellowed with age but still legible. The top one, addressed to my descendants, described how Freehaven was founded and how the community worked together to survive. Harriet wrote of the escaped enslaved people and the Abenaki tribe who helped them, teaching them how to live off the land while remaining hidden. They protected each other, Grandma said softly. Different peoples, finding common ground in freedom. Another letter listed names, dozens of them, men, women, and children who had lived in Freehaven. Zora felt a lump in her throat as Grandma pointed to one. Zora Freeman. You were named after her, Grandma explained. She was Harriet's closest friend. They escaped together. The small leather pouch contained a hand-carved wooden figure, a bird taking flight. A symbol of freedom, Dr. Rodriguez murmured, examining it carefully. Finally, they turned to the treasure chest. Dr. Rodriguez suggested they document it properly before opening it, taking photographs from every angle. When they finally lifted the lid, all three gasped. Inside lay gold coins, jewelry, small silver items, and what looked like family heirlooms: a pocket watch, a carved hair comb, a child's tiny silver rattle. Each piece represented something precious that Freehaven's residents had managed to bring with them or acquire during their journey to freedom. This isn't just valuable because of the gold, Dr. Rodriguez said, gently lifting a simple gold band. It's valuable because of what these items meant to people who had so little. Each piece has a story. What happens now? Zora asked, looking from Dr. Rodriguez to her grandmother. Before either could answer, headlights swept across the kitchen window as a car pulled into the driveway. Moments later, there was a sharp knock at the door. Dr. Rodriguez peered through the curtains. "It's the police," she said with relief. Two officers stood on the porch. After checking their identification, Grandma invited them in. "We've had reports of suspicious activity around here," the taller officer explained. "A man named Victor Blackwood. He's wanted for questioning about some stolen artifacts. He was at the archaeological site earlier," Dr. Rodriguez confirmed, introducing herself. "He may have been involved in a break-in at this house as well." The second officer nodded. "We've been looking for him. His rental car was found abandoned near the state highway." "He's gone?" Zora asked, relief and disappointment mingling in her voice. "For now," the officer replied, "but we'll find him." After explaining about the tunnel collapse and showing them the treasure chest, the police agreed to station a patrol car outside the house overnight. Dr. Rodriguez decided to stay as well, calling the hospital to check on Miguel, who was doing fine and would be released in the morning. Later, as Zora prepared for bed, Grandma came to her room. "You did a brave thing today," she said, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Standing up to Blackwood, rescuing the treasure. Harriet would have been proud." "I was scared," Zora admitted. "Courage isn't the absence of fear," Grandma smiled. "It's acting despite it." She handed Zora a small wooden box, different from the ones they'd found. This was meant to be a going-away present at the end of summer, but I think now is the right time. Inside was a silver pendant, a circle with a star, just like the Freehaven symbol. It belonged to my mother, Grandma explained, and her mother before that. Now it's yours. As Zora fastened it around her neck, she felt a connection to something larger than herself, a line stretching back through generations to Harriet and the people of Freehaven. "Tomorrow," Grandma said, "we'll decide what to do with the treasure. But whatever happens, the most important thing has already been found." "What's that?" Zora asked. "The truth," Grandma answered simply. "Freehaven is real, and now everyone knows it." But as Grandma left and Zora turned out her light, she couldn't help wondering if they'd seen the last of Victor Blackwood. Something told her their story wasn't quite finished yet. The next morning brought sunshine and a sense of relief. The police reported no disturbances overnight, and Dr. Rodriguez received word that Miguel was being discharged from the hospital. She left to pick him up, promising to return later. News of the Freehaven discovery spread quickly through Waverly Cove. By lunchtime, reporters from the local paper had arrived, asking for interviews. Grandma Imani, suddenly the town celebrity, handled their questions with grace, always emphasizing that the discovery wasn't just her family's story, but belonged to all the descendants of Freehaven. "My grandmother told me these stories," she explained to a young reporter, "and her grandmother told her." That's how history survives, through the telling. After the reporters left, Dr. Rodriguez returned with Miguel and Luna. Miguel's leg was bandaged, but he could walk with crutches, his face lighting up when he saw Zora. "You won't believe what happened at the hospital," he said excitedly. "Mom showed pictures of the artifacts to one of the nurses, and she started crying. Turns out her great-great-grandfather was from this area, and her family has stories about Freehaven too." "She's coming by tomorrow," Luna added, "with some family, papers that might connect to what we found." Over the next few days, more people came forward, some from as far away as Boston and New York, others from right in Waverly Cove. They brought family stories, old photographs, and documents that mentioned Freehaven. Like pieces of a puzzle, these fragments began to form a more complete picture of the settlement and its people. Dr. Rodriguez worked with Grandma Imani to document everything properly, creating a digital archive. The university, embarrassed by Blackwood's deception, offered additional resources and funding for the project. "They want to make amends," Dr. Rodriguez explained, "and they're sending a team of experts to help preserve the tunnels so they can be studied safely." A week after the discovery, Grandma Imani called a meeting at her house. Representatives from several Freehaven descendant families attended, along with Dr. Rodriguez and officials from the town's historical society. Together, they discussed what should happen to the treasure and the Freehaven site. "These artifacts belong to all of you," Dr. Rodriguez said, addressing the descendants. "As the lead archaeologist, I recommend they stay together as a collection, but the decision is yours." After much discussion, they reached an agreement. The treasure would be displayed in the Waverly Cove Museum, with ownership shared among the descendant families. The tunnels would be carefully preserved and eventually opened for educational tours, with the proceeds funding scholarships for the descendants. As summer drew to a close, one last ceremony remained. On a bright August morning, Zora stood with Grandma Imani outside the museum as the mayor cut a ribbon to open the new Freehaven exhibit. Inside, glass cases displayed the artifacts they'd found, along with photographs, letters, and the quilt map. Most prominent was a wall listing all the known residents of Freehaven, with blank spaces waiting to be filled as more descendants came forward. Zora traced her finger over the name Zora Freeman, feeling a connection that transcended time. "Your parents would be so proud," Grandma said, squeezing her shoulder. "I wish they could see this," Zora replied, thinking of her mom and dad, still overseas. "They'll be back next week," Grandma reminded her, "just in time to take you home." Zora looked around at the familiar faces, Miguel and Luna arguing good-naturedly, over a display label, Dr. Rodriguez explaining the tunnel construction to an elderly couple, the descendants of Freehaven connecting with each other, sharing stories and discovering common roots. "Actually," she said slowly, "I was thinking maybe I could stay until school starts. Help with the exhibit? Maybe even join the tour guide training program." Grandma's eyes widened in surprise. "You want to stay? What happened to being bored in Waverly Cove with no internet?" Zora fingered the Circle of Freedom pendant around her neck. "I guess I found something more interesting than my phone." Later, as the crowd thinned, Dr. Rodriguez approached with a man Zora didn't recognize. He was tall with salt and pepper hair and a detective's badge. "This is Detective Morris," Dr. Rodriguez introduced him. "He has news about Victor Blackwood." "We've located him in Montreal," the detective explained. "Canadian authorities are holding him for extradition. He won't be bothering you again." Relief washed over Zora, the last piece of worry finally lifting from her shoulders. That evening, she sat, with Grandma Imani on the porch swing, watching the sunset over the cove. The same view that had seemed so boring at the beginning of summer now felt peaceful, almost magical. "You know," Grandma said thoughtfully, "the real treasure of Freehaven wasn't the gold or jewelry. It was the names," Zora finished for her, "the people who were almost erased from history." Grandma nodded, her eyes shining with pride. "And now they'll be remembered." Zora touched her pendant, thinking of her namesake who had escaped to freedom with Harriet, of all the people who had lived in those tunnels, protecting each other and building something precious in secret. "Their stories were true all along," she said softly. "We just had to believe." Grandma Imani smiled, putting an arm around her granddaughter's shoulders. "That's the thing about stories, Zora. The important ones find a way to be heard, even if it takes generations." As stars appeared in the deepening blue sky, Zora felt something settle inside her. A sense of belonging, of being part of something larger than herself. She had come to Waverly Cove expecting the worst summer ever. Instead, she had found her past, her people, and a new understanding of who she was and where she came from. And that, she realized, was the greatest treasure of all. That was the end of this story. I hope you enjoyed this emotional journey of discovery, history, and family connections. Where are you listening from? I'd love to know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this tale, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories like this one. Don't forget to share with your friends and family to spread kindness and awareness about the importance of preserving our shared histories. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next story.